first up, we are going to talk to Will Stewart at THFC Iran. So let's get him on.
How you doing, Will?
Hey, Will. How are we doing today?
Another early morning to wake up to watch Spurs do that again.
You're better off staying in bed, I think, Will.
Probably should have.
Result side today. Look, well, obviously, I mean, it's easy to see what went wrong today. We gave them 2 goals early on.
Yeah.
Wolves are a very good defensive side, and we'd struggled to break them down with them sitting on a 2-goal lead. Was it a simple fact of we lost the game in the first 20 minutes, or did you feel like we could have done a lot more in the final hour or so to really force the issue?
I mean, we had plenty of time to do a whole lot more, right? So, I mean, yes, that is.
Do we use that time
factor.
well? Yeah.
I thought we gave it a go. I think Conte recognized his errors pretty early and tried to fix those. Hopefully, he uses his opportunity to maybe rethink this 3-4-3 thing. To be honest with you, I think the 3-5-2 it fits the players that we have a whole lot better than because it's working up. We just don't have. Look, like all the people out in the comments too, who are all this Conte out thing. I mean, that's just ridiculous. First of all,
whoever said that, yeah, bloody hell.
Well, there's probably about 50 of them in the comments.
I agree with you, Will. I've already seen them in the chats a few times, even during the game. A lot of hashtags Conte out, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean that's look. If we haven't have we as fans not learned anything over the last 5 managers that we've had that the issue obviously isn't a manager thing. Look, any time that we get a manager in and we give him a few months to try to implement his style of play and his mentality into the team, and then we just turn on him as a fan base, I think that's wrong. That's why for me it's been down to the players. And if you look at it again today, it was the remnant of Poch's B squad who let us down once again. And it's obvious that Conte wasn't back properly in the summer or in the January transfer window. We didn't do good enough in the summer. We didn't do good enough in January. But the 2 people that we did, I thought Bentancur and Kulusevski had a decent match. I think the only thing that if I were to say Conte is he's got to stop playing this 3-4-3. It just doesn't work for us. It hasn't worked for us. In fact, most of our biggest wins have come from a 3-5-2 system. So I don't understand why he's trying to force this 3-4-3 in. He obviously has a reason that he's trying to do it. He realized early on that wasn't working, so he switched to the forward back. Mistake number 2 was substituting Davies or Sessegnon instead of Davies. Yeah. So I agree with Iggy there. That was mistake number 2. Other than that, look, we gave it a fighting go. I think Kulusevski looks at least as good as any of the players that went out on loan or left the club in the January transfer window in that number 10 spot. If anything, I would have said that, I don't know. I would have liked to see a 3-5-2 with him starting in there. But until Skip comes back, we're stuck with Harry Winks. We're stuck with Højbjerg. We're stuck with Davies. We're stuck with Emerson and Doherty. We're stuck with these players.
What is the biggest problem for you when it comes to 3-4-3? Why don't you think it works?
Because we don't have the fullbacks, right? So we don't have players in those wide spaces. I mean, Reguilon is our best option, and even he. I mean, I don't think Reguilon's absolutely been that bad.
Wait, no. One sec, Will. If you say we don't have the fullbacks, if we go to 3-5-2, does that not put more pressure on them? Because it leaves them more isolated out wide because there's more focus in the centre.
No, because then you can start playing through the middle, right? So you can have creative players. You can play one deep-lying playmaker with 2 more attacking-minded midfielders who can build up and be creative from the midfield. So you're not reliant on creating from the wings, right? So in a 3-4-3, you're reliant upon those fullbacks to create opportunities for your front 3, which they can't do, right? So in a 3-5-2, you have an extra midfielder there who you can play more compact.
And the supply comes from the midfield, right?
You can build for the midfield rather than because our midfielders are far more talented at creating than our 2 fullbacks are, right? So
I would have said yes potentially before our January business. Now, because we got rid of Ndombele and Lo Celso, who, whatever people think of them, and right, and fair, every opinion's fair. I do think they have quality about them, and with them gone, our best qualities now for me in attacking series is in the wingers in Son, Lucas, Kulu, and Bergwijn. So if you only play two of them, it leaves a lot of options. Like, if you're only playing two of those players, you're leaving a lot of quality on the bench when maybe they should be starting. No?
No, I mean, what I'm saying is I would play them in the midfield.
I see. You'd play Lucas or Kulu a bit more central.
Right. So you'd have, in basically a 3-1-4-2, right? With Bentancur sitting in that holding mid spot, Kulusevski on the left, Moore on the right, Son and Kane up top. Or you can put Stevie Bergwijn in there if you need more defensive cover, or you can bring in a Skip if you need more, depending on what team you play. There's a lot of options that you can roll around in that 3-5-2 that we don't necessarily have in the 3-4-3. If you're playing the 3-4-3, you're kind of limited. It's either Moore on the right or Kulusevski on the right. Obviously Son, Kane, and then who are you playing in the midfield? You have Bentancur with other options, or Skip, Winks, and Højbjerg. That's it. But if you're playing in a 3-5-2, and you're having one holding midfielder who's a little bit more of a deep lying playmaker, then you have the option to move that around. You can be defensive, or you can be more attacking, and you can load that front four with more attacking players or more defensive players, depending on the opponent that you're playing. I see the 3-5-2 giving us more options, not less.
Yeah, I think I completely get what you're saying, Will. I think with a 3-4-3, because we've got two defensive midfielders, and let's be honest, our midfielders are not goal-scoring midfielders.
No,
so if you look at it from opponent's point of view, they're very easy to now Spurs, because all you have to do is cut out the supply to Son and Kane, and the only supply that's forthcoming are from your wing backs. If they're not playing well, or you manage to block them, which is something that's been quite easy to do if you look at it from an opponent's point of view, you cut that supply to Son and Kane, you've cut out the supply for Spurs scoring goals. So we need. You're right. I agree with what you're saying. Is we need to show a little bit more. Show a few more options, and maybe by doing what you just said, what you're maybe advising even Conte to try and offer something different, to maybe show that you're coming from different parts of the pitch, not just the wings.
When it's the exact same tactics that he played with Inter, right? So he had starts with a B, has a C in the end.
Barbarella.
But he played with a 3-5-2 with a hard-working midfield. They had Martinez and Lukaku.
And Lukaku sitting up front, and then they had two more dynamic midfielders sitting behind them.
Brozovic in midfield, Barella, and I think afterwards Eriksen came into it as well.
Right, yeah. And then they had the deep-lying playmaker sitting in the hole, right in front of the back three. So that's the exact, Brozovic. So that's what I'm saying. Bentancur can be that Brozovic type player, right? Who's the deep-lying playmaker into that three. You have two more dynamic midfielders who have to work a little bit, but Lucas Moura likes to work. Stevie Bergwijn can work. Even Son can work. So I mean, you could even have Son on the left side, Kulusevski on the right, Bentancur in the hole. There's so many options that you could rotate that inner triangle along with the top two, with the players that we have available to us now. That the 3-4-3 just doesn't give us. We're stuck in the 3-4-3. It's so predictable in the 3-4-3. Whereas in that 3-5-2, you have so many different combinations that you could work together in order to mold the system to your opponent. I just don't understand why. He's dead set on this, second year Chelsea 3-4-3 system. That just isn't working. It's not working. So he has to adapt, and he has multiple tools. It's not like he's over his career has been stuck on a 3-4-3 and he's just kind of got the blinders on and he's narrow-minded and that's the only thing he does. He operates multiple different tactical systems within that three in the back system. So I just don't understand what he's seeing that we're not as fans and pundits and both of you guys know that as content creators, we're always watching and researching and doing those. So we're always looking into it. There's got to be something that he's saying on the training pitch that we are not seeing, and I just don't know what it is. I'd like to know.
Against Chelsea, we played 4 at the back. Today, after half an hour, he bring on Kulu, took off Davis, and we reverted to a back 4. Kind of played a bit of a 4-2-3-1. Kulu a bit more central, trying to play some through balls and stuff like that. Is that 4 at the back something you'd like him to use a bit more often, or do you think, because he's known for his 3 at the back, he kind of has to stick with that if that's the tactic he knows best?
I think he can play a 4-2-3-1. I don't think we have the defenders to play a 4-2-3-1. Having only 2 defenders in the back, then we're stuck with playing with Davies at left back because he'd be more defensive and cover more. I mean, I just can't. I mean, that was the whole problem. I think if you would have seen Reguilon or Sessegnon in that left-hand side pushing forward up the pitch more, we would have put a little bit more pressure on there. But the problem is that leaves Sanchez exposed at the back with Romero. I mean, Romero hasn't been a problem. And I mean, does that mean that we have to wait until, I can't believe what I'm about to say, but does that mean we have to wait until Dyer comes back before we can see any positive performances? I mean, Dyer's been really good for us this season. Fair play to him for that. I mean, last season, maybe under Jose, I was pretty critical on him, and rightly so. But this year, even under Nuno, Dyer's been, somewhat reliable. So both times he's gone injured, we've gone on a losing streak. So
yeah, it's true.
I think with Dyer, I think the managers see leadership qualities in Dyer. We don't know him personally.
No, he's definitely the best leader at the back.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he can see his communication, which is something that was clearly missing today. It was so evident that with the communication part. I don't think that's Romero's strongest point. However, what Romero has is clear qualities. He's playing in a very fragile defensive unit, and he's still managed to keep his own. So that definitely has to change. But maybe, like you said, maybe regarding the changes in the tactics, perhaps after these 2 defeats, Conte's hands have been forced now to try something different, particularly with the upcoming game away to Man City.
Yeah, I mean, I just look. We can't be blaming Conte for this. We can't. No. This is the thing that really bothers me about the fan base is that. Things start to go a little bit shaky, and instead of trusting the manager, right, we just automatically boom, ow, 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 hashtag ow, 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 ow. Why are we doing this? We've gone through easily probably top 3 managers in the world in as far as recent success, and we're sitting here as fans saying he's the problem, not Davies, not Winks, not the players that we've all had problems with over the last 3 seasons. No. These players, the ones that are remaining, the ones that caused us issues today, Ben Davies was horrible today, are the ones that have gotten the last 4 managers sacked. Yeah. Or 3. I guess what's his name wasn't sacked. Mason wasn't sacked, but.
It's funny you say that, Will. Talking about fans, Conte's had a quote on his press conference. He says, "Our fans need to understand that you need to have patience to build again a situation that they were used to in the past. We are working hard with the players we have. There's a great commitment, but sometimes commitment is not enough. If you want to be competitive, you have to build." And do you think that's a message to some of the fans who maybe booed the team off today and booed at halftime as well?
100%. And look, if it would have been me, like booing some of the players, maybe, but then I would have sung a Conte song, right? Because to let him know, hey, we're booing the performance, but we're not booing you, right? That's what I would have done. But look, I even said this under Nuno. Like everybody, I get a lot of stick now. Oh, you bigged up Nuno, and it wasn't about me necessarily thinking that Nuno was some great manager. I always said he was just going to be a stopgap. It was about me holding to my principle. If it's this are the problems that we're facing, because then even though in the 3 or 4 matches that we lost under Nuno, it was all these kind of silly errors, right? It was all along these types of performances. Yeah, we weren't as attacking as we probably should be, but Nuno's not an attacking manager, so it's like you expect attacking football out of a guy who's not attacking. But it wasn't about that. It was about supporting the fact that it's the players, right? We got to get the deadwood out and bring in new players. And we did a decent job of getting people out in January, but there's more work that needs to be done. So I'm not going to be critical of managers, overly critical. Like I can call a spade, and when they make mistakes, like I think this 3-4-3 thing's not working, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I think that substituting Sessegnon over Davies was a mistake. But other than being calm and level-headed and criticizing fairly. I'm not going to go in on a manager until all of these problem players are gone. Right? I'm just not going to do it because
Fair
these
enough.
players have been the issue for 3 years.
You know, you talk about leadership without Dyer, you know. Yes, last game against Southampton, the last 20 minutes, when you really need someone to organise the back line and batten down the hatches and make sure we see out the game. You know, we had players free at the back post and we have players not marking their men, and that cost us. And then you look at today, you know, 2 goals, which you could arguably say, obviously, they're not carbon copy, but 2 goals where there are shots just raining in on us on the goal, and there's no one in the box reacting. There's no one on their toes ready to react to. There's no one on their toes like ready to react to like the shots coming in and everything. There's Wolves players just getting there first. The first goal, they get 3 shots unresponded to. Like no one's responding to. The second goal, I know it's quick, but the ball rebounds off Sanchez and Bentancur, and Sanchez is lying on the ground watching the ball hit the post instead of getting up and being ready to react to it hitting the post. He thinks it's going in, so he's just lying there waiting for it to go in, and then he realises, oh, it hits the post. And then he gets up to react, but by then it's too late. Then Donker's already on his bike. Is that where leadership comes in, like with these kind of things?
I mean, 100%, right? So, look, I like to look at players too, not only when they're playing, but with like how they're directing the game. And when Dyer's not there, just like when Bentancur came on for the first or second time when he got to the club, one of the reasons why I thought that he would be a good player to start was because he was immediately pointing directions, calling, you know, quarterbacking that midfield, you know, pass it here, play here, doing this, doing that. And you have Dyer always is doing that type of stuff. And you don't see that when he's not there. It's almost like they have their hands in their pockets. They're doing what they're supposed to do. It's kind of like, you know, how classroom kids act when the teacher's out of the room, right? When the teacher walks out of the room, they just do whatever they want to do, whatever they think. You know, they may not necessarily be completely belligerent, but they do. When the teacher comes in, there's focus, there's attention. So Dyer's just kind of that. He has that leadership force in that back line, and that's what I think is horribly missed. I don't know why he's continually to be injured. It's like he's back, but he's not back. He's okay, but he's not okay. Look, we just need him back in the squad. We need to upgrade Ben Davies in that left back spot or left center back spot. We need a new right wing back. Those 3 positions right now, and then some more positions too to help upgrade in other spots. But look, I mean, our squad size has gone down. Like I can't even create two 11s out of our squad right now.
Yeah.
So we got to deal with what we got to deal with, but we got to be patient with Antonio Conte. We can't just start going into this narrative of it's the manager's fault, and I know that because I think that it's, you know, and I would say it's boring and easy to blame the manager when things go wrong. And other people say it's easy to blame the players. The only difference is if these players have been performing like this for 3 years, the manager's been doing it for 2 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where's the blame logically, right? If we're going to be...
Sorry, Will, my perception of this, because I was at the game versus Southampton, I don't get the feeling that the Conte outs, if you like, it's not coming from the fans at the stadium watching the game. There was boos at half time. I heard that, but I think that was more aimed at the performance rather than what you just said, rather than the manager. So I'm not sensing that whenever I've gone to watch the game. What I am sensing it is from the guys on social medias that, you know, or they use that platform to hashtag whatever they feel on the moment. They're just acting on pure emotion. You know, the game's just finished. Go straight on social media and say, right, here's the problem. He's got to go. But you're right. And Conte has always been consistent in saying that we need to have patience. The build is going to be a slow build, and of course questions will be asked with, you know, the money and the spending, and we know the rest of that. That needs to be forthcoming come the summer. But the build is going to be a slow one. We brought in a couple of players in. We shipped the 4 out. For the time being, at least, not all of them, but on a permanent basis. But we have shipped them out. So there is movement. Just we still need to address, like you just said, the the players in the areas that we desperately require them in, if we're going to play this contest system.
Yeah, and I would say, look, if the fans are aching for somebody to point the blame at, it needs to be going straight up to Paratici and Daniel Levy. I did a show on my channel not too long ago about players on a free this summer that cost less than 20 mil that nobody picked up after the transfer window. I mean, like, you have Kempf out of the Bundesliga. Yeah, I mean, you had Kempf out of the Bundesliga, who's a left-sided center back, 26, 27 years old, out is far better statistically than Ben Davies, anything, and he was like 7 million euro, and he's out of contract this summer. So why couldn't you go pick him up? I mean, we're talking about Ben Davies. You don't want to buy players. It's not hard to improve on Ben Davies. It's not, right? So going out and getting anybody who's over the age of 25, right? Like, I can understand maybe it would be a little bit of a risk to sign a player who's 22, 23 years old to replace Ben Davies. But anybody who's been playing consistently for a number of years professionally, who you can go back and you can watch history. In the Bundesliga, I think players, tend to mesh into the Premier League a lot faster, especially defenders coming out of the Bundesliga, than I do any other league. So I don't think a player like that is that big of a risk. 7 million euro on a free in the summer. I mean, we spent more than that on Joe Rodon, and he's not even playing. So I don't understand. If we as fans want to point fingers at somebody, let's point fingers at the people whose job it is. Oh, it's hard in January. How's it hard to go get somebody who's leaving in 6 months on a free? You throw money at their club, and they're going to beg you.
There are plenty of opportunities and players out there right now that can be not even less than 20 million. We're talking about zero. They're on a free. I mean, the obvious ones are the Balas and stuff like that. But there are many players, like you just said, you can pick up. You're relying on a real scouting network. You really need to invest in a scouting network that can go and pick up those sort of players and bring them in, and use Conte's pulling power to bring them in as well. So there are opportunities. Just we need to act quickly before everybody else wakes up and sees, and then we have in a situation where they can choose which clubs to go to. You need to get in there early, close the deal, and bring them to Spurs.
Yeah, I just, and for me, that's, if we want to blame people, I think that's where our blame should go, right? So players are the players. They are. We know who they are, right? So it's a little bit, you're kind of kicking a dead horse to be, just pounding the same drum on the players over and over and over again. I'm guilty. I'll raise my own hand. But where the blame really lies is on the front office, right? That's a baseball term, but upstairs, that's really where the blame lies, right? Is in Daniel Levy, Paratici, and the scouting network for the club that Steve Hitchen ran. Steve's gone. But hey, that's where I think the blame lies. It doesn't need to be a Conte. Yes, we can say, yeah, he needs to stop playing the 3-4-3. Yeah, he probably should have substituted Davies rather than Sessegnon. Yeah, but other than that, I saw some good performances. Bentancur again put in a shift today. Yeah, was he perfect? No. Did he slip a couple of times? Yeah. But overall, I thought his performance was really good. Kulusevski playing in the midfield, I thought looked far better than he did playing on the wing.
He's got lovely touches. He's got that left foot is majestic. He's got real, and he always tried to feed the ball through the needle, and he's really quality at that. Bentancur did as well as he could, but he was playing along some really poor winks today. When you have someone next to you playing as bad as he is, and he's meant to be guiding you in your new team, it's a tough ask. It's a tough ask.
I mean, that's because on Wednesday, right, you had options. You had Winks who played poorly and Højbjerg who played even worse, right? So I mean, it's you don't really have an option right now who plays in there alongside, unless you just pull them out altogether and you play, like I thought maybe bringing on Stevie B and having him play out on the right hand side, and have Lucas Moura fall into the midfield and play that number 10, and have Kulusevski drop a little bit deeper as more of an 8. I mean, that could have been an option. Yep. But I mean, that would have been the only option that you had. in order to try to fix the Winks issue. Because if you have Højbjerg, who's not really playing well, and didn't even play did he come on in the second half?
No, he didn't.
No, not at
No,
all.
okay.
Do you know what? It just goes to show how important Oliver Skip has become to the field. You know, it's huge. Who would have thought that a few seasons ago? But here he is now. Right now, he is the future moving forward with Bentancur, 100%.
I mean, last season too. At the end of last season, we were all like pining over him coming back because the midfield was so poor, right? Højbjerg and Winks. It's not like this is the first time that these guys have gone missing for months on end, right? It happened at the end of last season, and we were all looking at Winks at Norwich or Skip at Norwich and being like, you know, let's bring him back. Let's bring.
I think in Højbjerg's defense, yes, I agree that he's been in a poor run of form, but he's played a lot of games. He's played a lot of minutes, and this game, who knows? Maybe him being out this game would help him to try and regain a little bit more energy that we will for sure need against the very, very informed Manchester City.
All right.
Yeah, but
sorry, Will, we have been going on a while, but I appreciate you calling in. We do have other guests to bring on, but Will, it's good to see you as always, mate.
Nice one, Will.
All right, guys, stay strong, stay Spurs.
And go to subscribe to THFC Rants, people. We want to see more Will Stewart. Love you guys. Cheers, Will.
Take care, mate.
Bye-bye.